PGS 10 is upon us, and it's the last tournament that decides who goes to PGC at the end of the year. So I'm here again to tell you who's gonna go, who's already qualified, and what teams need at PGS 10 to make their way to the Global Championship. PGS includes 32 teams, some of those regional spots, some of those global spots, and then one invite for the best Thai team, which is Full Sense at the moment. They are going straight to the finals. There's already a bunch of regional teams locked in from each of their regions. I'll give you a screenshot here, but there's also quite a few teams in reserve still waiting, hoping that some of the already qualified teams make it through PGS points instead, because if you make it through PGS points, you vacate your regional spot and give it to the next team in line. That means Navi is already locked in. That means despite them not qualifying through Europe directly, Twisted Mind's given up their spot. They're in. That also means if FaZe were to qualify through PGS points, for example, BB would be in. From the PGSs and EWC together, there's a combined leaderboard, and the top 8 will go to PGC. You notice one team here is in a different color. That is Full Sense, because again, they're already invited to the grand finals. They wouldn't take up a PGS slot if they made it into the top 8 here. So it's the same thing again as we had in the regions. If Full Sense ends up in the top 8, then they'll hand their spot to a team one further down. The fantastic lads at Liquipedia have already done the work to figure out that top 3 teams are mathematically guaranteed. Freaks, Falcons, and Twists are all going to PGC based on their PGS performances. Now, where my part comes in is I've written a piece of software that simulates a lot of different outcomes of PGS 10 and then checks, okay, who qualified if that outcome were to materialize. We'll have a look at the numbers here in a bit. Just take it with a grain of salt. Simulations are all random. That means that the software assigns Twisted Minds the same challenge to be 18th. Then it assigns Mission Ready International Alliance the chance to get first, right? So it's never going to be an amazing prediction, but when you check out basically all of the options, it gives you a bit of a rough idea. The main use case, in my opinion, is to be looking at the edge cases, be looking at the cases where the software assigns a very high or a very low probability. For example, 17. Not mathematically guaranteed. The software says if they get 16th, in all of the simulations where they got 16th, their chance to qualify was 99.995%. What does that tell us? Well, with 2 million simulations, there's really only a handful where 17 didn't make it in those 2 million. If you put yourself to look at it, you can quickly figure out what those scenarios are because they are so few. So for 17 to not qualify, they have to get passed by 5 teams behind them, and none of those can be Full Sense. If one of those is Full Sense, then they would have to get passed by 6 teams because Full Sense doesn't take up a slot, remember? So what needs to happen for 17 is that Gen.G needs at least 65 points. Gen.G needs at least 12th place. Virtus Pro, they need at least 8th. Forest Natural, they need to catch up 230 points already. So they would need a 3rd, and then the Expendables would need to get 2nd or 3rd. And then a team out of the top 9 would have to win the whole thing. And that's if 17 doesn't make the finals and get 0 points. A very unlikely scenario here. A ton of stars would have to align, and that's why the chance is so high. And that's useful information from the simulation. On the other hand, for example, a 0-point team has a 1% chance of qualifying with a 3rd place. What does that mean? It's not gonna happen. The chances are super, super slim. While, for example, if you're looking at a Forest or a TE, for them, a 3rd place would be almost guaranteed. BB is now looking at, according to my software, a 93% chance to qualify to PGC. I wouldn't bet the house on it, that this 93% is accurate, because the teams around BB, the teams that are chasing BB, should be better than the average team in the lobby, right? So there's a chance they get more points. But then there's also teams ahead of them that will continue to put points on the board, right? We're not expecting those top 4 teams to just fall flat in the last event. So who knows? For the BB one, I'm a little bit sketched if 93 is really accurate, but the software ran the numbers, and in 93% of cases, BB still ended up in the top 8. I'll put the numbers on screen here for another bit so you can have a look. I'll also put a link to the Google Sheet in the description where I post the results. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a like. And yeah, if you want to support the channel, you can subscribe and all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the PGS watch parties.